Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books, right here in the live studios in Hythe, Kent, UK, just next to the English Channel. We hope that you are all safe and well and happy in all respects. Winter's going deeper into winter. There's a surge going all over the world. There's different mutants of this virus. And it's an extremely difficult situation in so many places. We hope that these readings are giving you solace and relief from the tension and the anxiety of living in this time. That's our goal. That's the purpose of reading Prabhupada's books together, to get a taste. And that taste is so strong that all the other things will be neutralized in our hearts. That's why the Caitanya-caritämrta was so dear to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. It was his life and soul. And Srila Prabhupada, when he was coming over on the boat, he read Sri Caitanya-caritämrta practically the whole way, except when he was having heart attacks and going through seasickness and all of that heavy stuff that he went through. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he had this to say about the Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. In due course, Mahapralaya, devastating floods, will inundate the entire universe. If you attempt to survive by swimming in that deluge, then do not neglect to take hold of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. Or, if you cannot hold all three, then release Bhagavad Gita. If necessary, you may also relinquish Srimad Bhagavatam. But under no circumstances release your hold on Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. For if this one book remains, then the flood can do no actual damage, because after the flood has subsided, the message of Shastra can be revived from Sri Caitanya-caritämrta alone, it being the essence of all Shastra. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda. So we are in the second chapter of the Antya-līlā, and the chastisement of Junior Haridāsa, punishment of Junior Haridāsa. And we're beginning with text 84. At Jagannath Puri, in the association of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, lived Bhagavan Acharya, who was certainly a gentleman, a learned scholar, and a great devotee. Purport. For a description of Bhagavan Acharya, one may refer to Antya-līlā, 10th chapter, verse 136. 85. He was fully absorbed in thoughts of fraternal friendships with God. He was an incarnation of a cowherd boy, and thus his dealings with Swarup Damodar Goswami were very friendly. Text 86. He sought the shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's lotus feet with full surrender. Sometimes he would invite the Lord to dine at his home. Text 87. Bhagavan Acharya prepared varieties of rice and vegetables at home and brought the Lord there alone to eat. Purport. Generally, those who invited Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for dinner used to offer him the remnants of food that had first been offered to Lord Jagannath. Bhagavan Acharya, however, instead of giving him the remnants of Jagannath's food, prepared dinner at his home. In Orissa, food offered to Lord Jagannath is called prasadi, and that which is offered, and that which is not offered to Lord Jagannath is known as amani, or garabata, rice prepared at home. Text 88. Bhagavan Acharya's father, whose name was Shatananda Khan, was an expert statesman, whereas Bhagavan Acharya was not at all interested in the management of the state. Indeed, he was almost in the renounced order of life. Text 89. Bhagavan Acharya's brother, whose name was Gopal Bhattacharya, had studied Vedanta philosophy at Benares and had then returned to Bhagavan Acharya's home. Purport. During those days, as at the present, Vedanta philosophy was understood through the commentary of Shankaracharya, which is known as the Haridāsa Bhashya. Thus it appears that Gopal Bhattacharya, the younger brother of Bhagavan Acharya, had studied Vedanta according to the way of Haridāsa Bhashya, which expounds the Mayavad philosophy of the impersonalists. Text 90. Bhagavan Acharya took his brother to meet Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but the Lord, knowing that Gopal Bhattacharya was a Mayavadi philosopher, could not get much happiness from meeting him. Text 91. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu derives no happiness from seeing one who is not a pure devotee of Krishna. Thus, because Gopala Bhattacharya was a Mayavadi scholar, the Lord felt no jubilation in meeting him. Nevertheless, because Gopal Bhattacharya was related to Bhagavan Acharya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu feigned pleasure in seeing him. 92. Bhagavan Acharya said to Swarup Damodar, Gopal, my younger brother, has returned to my home, having concluded his study of Vedanta philosophy. Text 93. Bhagavan Acharya requested Swarup Damodar Goswami to hear from Gopal the commentary upon Vedanta. Swarup Damodar, however, somewhat angry because of love, spoke as follows. You have lost your intelligence in the association of Gopal, and therefore you are eager to hear the Mayavad philosophy. Text 95. When a Vaishnava listens to the Haridāsa Bhashya, the Mayavad commentary upon Vedanta Sutra, he gives up the Krishna-conscious attitude that the Lord is the master and the living entity is his servant. Instead, he considers himself the Supreme Lord. Purport. The philosophers known as Kevaladvaita Vadis generally occupy themselves with hearing the Haridāsa Bhashya, a commentary by Shankaracharya, advocating that one impersonally consider oneself the Supreme Lord. Such Mayavad philosophical commentaries upon the Vedanta Sutra are simply imaginary, but there are other commentaries on the Vedanta Sutra. The commentary of Srila Ramanujacharya, known as the Sri Bhashya, establishes the Vishishtadvaita Vad philosophy. Similarly, the Brahma Sampradaya Madhvacharya's Purna Pragya Bhashya establishes Shuddhadvaita Vad. In the Kumara Sampradaya, or Nimbarka Sampradaya, Sri Nimbarka establishes the philosophy of Dvaita-dvaita Vad. In the Parijata Saurabha Bhashya, and in the Vishnu Swami Sampradaya, or Rudra Sampradaya, which comes from Lord Shiva, Vishnu Swami has written a commentary called Sarvagya Bhashya, which establishes Shuddhadvaita Vad. A Vaishnava should study the commentaries on the Vedanta Sutra written by the four Sampradaya Acharyas, namely Sri Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Vishnu Swami, and Nimbarka, for these commentaries are based upon the philosophy that the Lord is the Master and that all living entities are His eternal servants. One interested in studying Vedanta philosophy properly must study these commentaries, especially if he is a Vaishnava. These commentaries are always adored by Vaishnavas. The commentary by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati is elaborately given in the Antya-līlā, chapter 7, text 101. The Mayavad commentary, Shariraka Bhashya, is like poison for a Vaishnava. It should not be touched at all. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur remarks that even a Mahabhagavata, or highly elevated devotee, who has surrendered himself unto the lotus feet of Krishna, sometimes falls down from pure devotional service if he hears the Mayavad philosophy of Shariraka Bhashya. This commentary should therefore be shunned by all Vaishnavas. Text 96. The Mayavad philosophy presents such a jugglery of words that even a highly elevated devotee who has accepted Krishna as his life and soul changes his decision when he reads the Mayavad commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. Maybe we can close the windows. Text 97. In spite of Swarup Damodar's protest, Bhagavan Acharya continued, "We are all fixed at the lotus feet of Krishna with our hearts and souls. Therefore the Shariraka Bhashya cannot change our minds." 98. Swarup Damodar replied, "Nevertheless, when we hear the Mayavad philosophy, we hear that Brahman is knowledge and that the universe of Maya is false, but we gain no spiritual understanding." 99. The Mayavad philosopher tries to establish that the living entity is only imaginary and that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is under the influence of Maya. Hearing this kind of commentary breaks the heart and life of a devotee. Purport. Swarup Damodar Goswami, Srila Swarup Damodar Goswami, wanted to impress upon Bhagavan Acharya that even though someone firmly fixed in devotion to Krishna's service might not be deviated by hearing the Mayavad Bhashya, that Bhashya is nevertheless full of impersonal words and ideas, such as Brahman, which represent knowledge, but which are impersonal. The Mayavadis say that the world created by Maya is false, and that actually there is no living entity, but only one spiritual effulgence. They further say that God is imaginary, that people think of God only because of ignorance, and that when the Supreme Absolute Truth is befooled by the external energy, Maya, he becomes a jiva, or living entity. It's so illogical. We can't even understand it. It doesn't make any sense at all. It's like gibberish. Upon hearing all these nonsensical ideas from the non-devotee, a devotee is greatly afflicted, as if his heart and soul were broken. Text 100. Thus Bhagavan Acharya, greatly ashamed and fearful, remained silent. The next day, he asked Gopal Bhattacharya to return to his own district. 101. One day Bhagavan Acharya invited Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to dine at his home. Thus he was preparing rice and various types of vegetables. 102. A devotee named Chota Haridāsa used to sing for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Bhagavan Acharya called him to his home and spoke as follows. Please go to the sister of Shiki Mahiti. In my name, ask her for a manna of white rice and bring it here. Purport. In India, Shukla Chaul, white rice, is also called Atapa Chaul, or rice that has not been boiled before being husked. Another kind of rice, called Siddhi Chaul, brown rice, is boiled before being husked. Generally, first-class white fine rice is required for offerings to the deity. Thus, Bhagavan Acharya asked Chota Haridāsa, or Junior Haridāsa, a singer in the assembly of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to get some of this rice from his sister of Shiki Mahiti, A mana is a standard of measurement in Orissa for rice and other food grains. Text 104. Shiki Mahiti's sister was named Madhavi Devi. She was an elderly lady who always performed austerities. She was very advanced in devotional service. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted her as having formerly been an associate of Srimati Radharani. In the entire world, 3.5 people were his intimate devotees. 106. The three were Swarup Damodar Goswami, Ramananda Roy, and Shiki Mahiti, and the half a person was Shiki Mahiti's sister. Text 107. After begging the rice from her, Junior Haridāsa brought it to Bhagavan Acharya, who was very pleased to see its quality. Text 108. In great affection, Bhagavan Acharya cooked varieties of vegetables and other preparations dear to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He also obtained remnants of food from Lord Jagannath and digestive aids such as ground ginger and also lime with salt. Text 109. At noon, when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to eat the offerings of Bhagavan Acharya, he first appreciated the fine rice and therefore questioned him. Where did you get such fine rice? The Lord asked. Bhagavan Acharya replied, I got it by begging from Madhavi Devi. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked who had begged the rice and brought it back, Bhagavan Acharya mentioned the name of Junior Haridāsa. Praising the quality of the rice, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu partook of the prasadam. Then, after returning to his residence, he gave the following order to Govinda, his personal assistant. From this day forward, do not allow Chota Haridāsa to come here. When Junior Haridāsa heard that he had been ordered not to approach Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was very unhappy. No one could understand why he had been ordered not to come. 115. Haridāsa fasted continuously for 3 days. Then Swarup Damodar Goswami and other confidential devotees approached Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to inquire from him. Text 116. What great offense has Junior Haridāsa committed? Why has he been forbidden to come to your door? He has now been fasting for 3 days. Text 117. The Lord replied, I cannot tolerate seeing the face of a person who has accepted the renounced order of life, but who still talks intimately with a woman. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments that saralata, or simplicity, is the first qualification of a Vaishnava, whereas duplicity, or cunning behavior, is a great offense against the principles of devotional service. As one advances in Krishna consciousness, one must gradually become disgusted with material attachment, and thus become more and more attached to the service of the Lord. If one is not factually detached from material activities, but still proclaims himself advanced in devotional service, he is cheating. No one will be happy to see such behavior. 118. So strongly are the senses connected to the objects of their enjoyment that indeed a wooden statue of a woman attracts the mind of even a great saintly person. Purport. The senses and the sense objects are so intimately connected that the mind of even a great saintly person is attracted to a wooden doll if it is attractively shaped like a young woman. The sense objects, namely form, sound, smell, taste, and touch, are always attractive for the ears, eyes, nose, tongue, and skin. Since the senses and sense objects are naturally intimately related, sometimes even a person claiming control over his senses remains always subject to the control of sense objects. The senses are impossible to control unless purified and engaged in the service of the Lord. Thus, even though a saintly person vows to control his senses, the senses are still sometimes perturbed by sense objects. Text 119. Matra swasra tuhitra va na vibhikta sano bhavet balaban indriya gramo vidbangsam apikarshati. One should not sit closely with one's mother, sister, or daughter, for the senses are so strong that they may attract even a person advanced in knowledge. Purport. This verse appears in the Manu Samhita 2:2-15 and Srimad Bhagavatam 9:19, 17, 120. There are many persons with little in their possession who accept the renounced order of life like monkeys. They go here and there, engaging in sense gratification and speaking intimately with women. Purport. One should strictly follow the regulated principles, namely, no illicit sex, no meat eating, no intoxication, and no gambling. And in this way, one should make progress in spiritual life. If an unfit person sentimentally accepts vairagya or takes sannyas, but at the same time remains attached to women, he is in a very dangerous position. His renunciation is called markata vairagya, or renunciation like that of a monkey. The monkey lives in the forest, eats fruit, and does not even cover itself with a cloth. In this way it resembles a saint. But the monkey always thinks of female monkeys, and sometimes keeps a dozen of them for sexual intercourse. This is called markata vairagya. Therefore, one who is unfit should not accept the renounced order of life. One who accepts the order of sannyas, but again becomes agitated by sensual disturbances and talks privately with women, is called dharma dvaji, or dharma kalanka, which means that he brings condemnation upon the religious order. Therefore, one should be extremely careful in this position, in this connection. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains the word markata to mean restless. A restless person cannot be steady. Therefore, he simply wanders about, gratifying his senses, just to get praise from others, to get cheap adoration from his followers or people in general. Such a person sometimes accepts the dress of a sannyasi or Babaji in the renounced order of life, renounced order, but he cannot give up desires for sense gratification, especially for the association of women. Such a person cannot make advancement in spiritual life. There are 8 different kinds of sensual enjoyment with women, including talking about them and thinking about them. Thus, for a sannyasi, a person in the renounced order, talking intimately with women is a great offense. Sri Ramananda Roy and Srila Narottam Das Thakur actually achieved the most elevated stage of the renounced order. But those who imitate them, accepting them as ordinary human beings, fall under the influence of the material energy, for that is a great misunderstanding. Text 121. After saying this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu entered his room. Seeing him in such an angry mood, all the devotees fell silent. Text 122. The next day, all the devotees together approached the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to submit an appeal on behalf of Junior Haridāsa. Haridāsa has committed a small offense, they said. Therefore, O Lord, please be merciful to him. Now he has received a sufficient lesson. In the future, he will not commit such an offense. 124. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "My mind is not under my control. It does not like to see anyone in the renounced order who talks intimately with women." 125. You should all tend to your respective engagements. Give up this useless talk. If you speak this way again, I shall go away, and you will no longer see me here. 126. Hearing this, all the devotees covered their ears with their hands, got up, and went about their respective duties. Text 127. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also left that place to perform his noon duties. No one could understand his pastimes. 128. The next day, all the devotees went to Sri Paramananda Puri and requested him to pacify the Lord. Paramananda Puri thereupon went alone to the residence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Lord, after offering him obeisances, seated him by his side with great respect. Text 130. The Lord inquired, "What is your order? For what purpose have you come here?" Paramananda Puri then submitted his prayer that the Lord should show favor to Junior Haridāsa. 131. Hearing this request, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, "My dear Lord, please hear me. It is better for you to stay here with all the Vaishnavas." Text 132. Please give me permission to go to Alalanath. I shall remain there alone. Only Govinda will go with me. Text 133. After saying this, the Lord called for Govinda. Offering obeisances to Paramananda Puri, he got up and began to leave. Text 134. In great haste, Paramananda Puri Gosai went before him and with great humility persuaded him to sit down in his room. Paramananda Puri said, "My dear Lord Chaitanya, you are the independent personality of Godhead. You can do whatever you like. Who can say anything above you?" 136. All your activities are for the benefit of people in general. We cannot understand them, for your intentions are deep and grave. Text 137. After saying this, Paramananda Puri Gosai left for his own home. Then all the devotees went to see Junior Haridāsa. 138. Sarup Damodar Goswami said, Sarup Damodar Gosai said, "Please hear us, Haridāsa, for we all wish you well. Please believe this. At present, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is persisting in his mood of anger because he is the independent Supreme Personality of Godhead. At some time, however, he will surely be merciful, for at heart he is very kind." 140. The Lord is persisting, and if you also persist, his persistence will increase. It is better for you to bathe and take prasadam. In due course, his anger will automatically subside. 141. Having said this, Sarup Damodar Goswami induced Haridāsa to bathe and take prasadam. After thus reassuring him, he returned home. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to see Lord Jagannath in the temple, Haridāsa would stay a long distance away and see him. 143. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the ocean of mercy. Who can understand him? When he chastises his dear devotees, he certainly does so to re-establish the principles of religion or duty. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says in this connection that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the ocean of mercy, chastised Junior Haridāsa, although Junior Haridāsa was his dear devotee, to establish that one in the devotional line engaged in pure devotional service should not be a hypocrite. For a person engaged in devotional service in the renounced order, having intimate relationships with women is certainly hypocrisy. This chastisement was given to Junior Haridāsa as an example for future sahajas who might adopt the dress of the renounced order to imitate Rupa Goswami and other bona fide sannyasis, but secretly have illicit connections with women. To teach such men, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chastised his dear devotee, Haridāsa, for a slight deviation from the regulated principles. Srimati Madhavi Devi was a highly elevated devotee. Therefore, approaching her to ask for some rice to serve Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was certainly not very offensive. Nevertheless, just to preserve the regulated principles for the future, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu enforced the hard and fast rule that no one in the renounced order should intimately mix with women. Had Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu not chastised Junior Haridāsa for this slight deviation, so-called devotees of the Lord would have exploited the example of Junior Haridāsa to continue their habit of illicit connections with women unrestrictedly. Indeed, they still preach that such behavior is allowed for a Vaishnava, but it is strictly not allowed. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the teacher of the entire world, and therefore he enforced this exemplary punishment to establish that illicit sexual connections are never allowed by Vaishnava philosophy. This was his purpose in chastising Junior Haridāsa. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in fact the most magnanimous incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he strictly prohibited illicit sex. Text 144. After all the devotees saw this example, a mentality of fear grew among them. Therefore they all stopped talking with women, even in dreams. Purport. In connection with Stri Sambhasana, talking with women, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that talking with women for the purpose of mingling with them for sense gratification, subtle or gross, is strictly prohibited. Chanika Pandit, the great moral instructor, says, Matri Vat Padidare. Thus, not only a person in the renounced order or one engaged in devotional service, but everyone should avoid mingling with women. One should consider one's wife, another's wife, his mother. Text 145. In this way, a complete year passed for Junior Haridāsa, but still there was not a sign of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy toward him. Text 146. Thus, at the end of one night, Junior Haridāsa, after offering Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu his respectful obeisances, departed for Prayag without saying anything to anyone. 147. Junior Haridāsa had conclusively decided to attain shelter at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Thus he entered deep into the water at Triveni, the confluence of the Ganges and Yamuna at Prayag, and in this way gave up his life. Immediately after committing suicide in this way, he went in his spiritual body to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and received the mercy of the Lord. However, he still remained invisible. 149. In a spiritual body resembling that of a Gandharva, Junior Haridāsa, although invisible, would sing at night for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to hear. No one but the Lord, however, knew of this. 150. One day, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inquired from the devotees, "Where is Haridāsa? Now you may bring him here." 151. The devotees all replied, "One night, at the end of a full year, Junior Haridāsa got up and went away. No one knows where he has gone." 152. While hearing the devotees lament, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was mildly smiling. Thus all the devotees were very much astonished. One day Jagadananda, Sarup, Govinda, Kashishwar, Shankar, Damodar, and Mukunda all went to bathe in the sea. They could hear Haridāsa singing from a distant place, as if calling them in his original voice. Text 155. No one could see him, but they could hear him singing in a sweet voice. Therefore, all the devotees, headed by Govinda, made this guess. 156. Haridāsa must have committed suicide by drinking poison, and because of this sinful act, he has now become a Brahmana ghost. Text 157. We cannot see his material form, they said, but still we hear his sweet singing. Therefore he must have become a ghost. Swarup Damodar, however, protested, "This is a false guess." 158. Junior Haridāsa chanted the Hare Krishna mantra throughout his entire life and served the Supreme Lord, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Moreover, he is dear to the Lord and has died in a holy place. 159. Haridāsa cannot have been degraded. He must have attained liberation. This is a pastime of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's. You will all understand it later. 160. A devotee returned to Navadvip from Prayag and told everyone the details of Junior Haridāsa's suicide. 161. He explained how Junior Haridāsa had made his resolution and had thus entered the waters at the confluence of the Yamuna and Ganges. Hearing these details, Srivas Thakur and the other devotees were very surprised. 162. At the end of the year, Shivananda Sen came to Jagannath Puri as usual, accompanied by the other devotees, and thus, in great happiness, met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Text 163. When Srivas Thakur inquired from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, "Where is Junior Haridāsa?" the Lord replied, "A pure person, I'll read this again. I made a mistake. When Srivas Thakur inquired from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, "Where is Junior Haridāsa?" the Lord replied, "A person is sure to achieve the results of his fruitive activities." 164. Then Srivas Thakur related the details of Haridāsa's decision and his entering the waters of at the confluence of the Ganges and Yamuna. 165. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard these details, he smiled in a pleased mood and said, if with sensual intentions one looks at women, this is the only process of atonement. 166. Then all the devotees, headed by Swarup Damodar Goswami, concluded that because Haridāsa had committed suicide at the confluence of the rivers Ganges and Yamuna, he must have ultimately attained shelter at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Purport. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur remarks that after one adopts the renounced order and accepts the dress of either a sannyasi or a Babaji, if he entertains the idea of sense gratification, especially in relationship with a woman, the only atonement is to commit suicide at the confluence of the Ganges and Yamuna. Only by such atonement can his sinful life be purified. If such a person is thus punished, it is possible for him to attain the shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Without such punishment, however, the shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is very difficult to regain. 167. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the son of Mother Shachi, performs his pastimes which greatly satisfy the ears and minds of pure devotees who hear about them. 168. This incident manifests the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. His teaching that a sannyasi should remain in the renounced order and the deep attachment to him felt by his faithful devotees. I'm going to read that again. This is very important. This incident manifests the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. His teaching that a sannyasi should remain in the renounced order and the deep attachment to him felt by his faithful devotees. Text 169. It also demonstrates the glories of holy places and shows how the Lord accepts his faithful devotee. Thus the Lord fulfilled 5 or 7 purposes by performing one pastime. 170. The pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are like nectar, and they are deep like the ocean. People in general cannot understand them, but a sober devotee can. 171. Please hear the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with faith and confidence. Do not argue, for arguments will produce a contrary result. I'll read that again. Can I? Oh, all right. Please hear the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with faith and confidence. Do not argue, for arguments will produce a contrary result. 172. Sri Rupa Raghunatha Bhariyana Ash, Caitanya-caritämrta, Kahe, Krishna Das. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishna Das, narrate Sri Caitanya-caritämrta, following in their footsteps. And there is an extra section called the instructions from this chapter. Summarizing this chapter, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that one should derive from it the following lessons. 1. Although Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is an incarnation of mercy, he nevertheless gave up the company of one of his personal associates, namely Junior Haridāsa, for if he had not done so, pseudo-devotees would have taken advantage of Junior Haridasa's fault by using it as an excuse to live as devotees and at the same time have illicit sexual connections. Such activities would have demoralized the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and as a result, devotees would surely have gone to a hellish life in the name of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. 2. By chastising Junior Haridāsa, the Lord set the standard for acharyas, or the heads of institutions propagating the Chaitanya cult, and for all actual devotees. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to maintain the highest standard. 3. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed that a pure devotee should be simple and free from sinful activities, for thus one can be his bona fide servant. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught his followers how to observe the renounced order strictly. 4. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to prove that his devotees are exalted and that their character is ideal. He kindly accepts his faithful devotees and teaches them how much tribulation and disturbance can be produced by even a slight deviation from the strict principles of devotional life. 5. By chastising Junior Haridāsa, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exhibited his mercy toward him, thus showing how elevated was Junior Haridasa's devotion for him. Because of this transcendental relationship, the Lord corrected even a slight offense committed by his pure devotee. Therefore, one who wants to be a pure devotee of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu should give up all material sense gratification. Otherwise, the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are very difficult to attain. 6. If one dies in such a celebrated holy place at Prayag, Mathura, or Vrindavan, one can be relieved of the reactions to sinful life and then attain the shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. 7. Although a pure or faithful devotee may fall down, he nevertheless ultimately gets the chance to go back home, back to Godhead, by the mercy of the Lord. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to Sri Caitanya-caritämrta, Antya-līlā, 2nd chapter, describing the chastisement of Junior Haridāsa. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Junior Haridāsa ki jai. Chastisement of Junior Haridāsa ki jai. The beautiful instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bo. Very sobering, intense chapter. Okay, let's have some reflections, comments, discussion. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
First is something here from Bhakti Ben.
Bhakti Ben, Hare Krishna.
He says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Just finished the last day of the marathon in the freezing snow in the north.
Whoa, live to give.
I am now embarking on the 4-hour drive back to Wales.
Hare Krishna.
Wanted to say thank you so much for your association and guidance this marathon. With so much time driving and on the streets, my regular reading schedule has been impossible to maintain. Thankfully, daily readings has really been my safe place each evening.
Oh, you actually said the nicest thing you could say to me, because I'm here cooped up, kind of debilitated from this surgery and old and not decrepit, but can't go out. And now we're in a tier 4 category, the place where we live. So the fact that you said that you got inspired to do the marathon by listening to these daily readings, that made my day. It was big. I'm a Sankirtan devotee at heart. Even I don't go out, I feel guilty for not going out, even though it's been a while since I've gone out actually. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Your answers to my questions have been a great source of meditation for me.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
I probably would be even less sane right now if it had not been for daily readings.
Hare Krishna.
This marathon I emptied the tank and had some very nice realizations in Sankirtan stories. I am sad it's over, but at the same time I'm ready for some sleep. Thanks again and again, your servant.
Thank you. Prabhupada told us, if it's any solace, it will be. You just give me your youth and distribute these books, and at the end of your life, you can take shelter of the holy dhams or hearing and chanting about Krishna.
Says, P.S. Apologies for any improper or inappropriate questions. I am still a fool, but learning.
That's your humility is your qualification, but you have not made any offense at all. Your questions were great. Thank you.
And from Dayal Nitai, he says, Dear Srila Guru Maharaj, please accept my obeisance. All glories. There's something from last night's reading related to Lord Chaitanya's Avirbhava appearance that I do not understand. What is then the difference between the Lord's presence in those forementioned places and his presence in other places?
Huh? Well, once he stayed, that pastime is illustrating that his personal presence was extended to those places while he was in Puri. It doesn't mean that his personal presence was in other places. We're talking about his physical presence. That's his inconceivable mercy. It's his. He can do anything. And one of the things he does is, when he comes to this material world, he pretends to be under the laws of nature and grows up and goes from one place to another. Right, when Krishna was here, he went from one place to another, and his devotees in those places would have to wait to see him. In the spiritual world, everyone sees him all the time, everywhere, because he can be with everyone at the same time, and is with everyone at the same time sometimes. But here, Lord Chaitanya is just trying to make a point. He's trying to make a point that he can inspire or enter into a devotee, by his presence, and be with the devotees through that presence. That's what he's trying to make the point. I don't quite understand the question though, because you said, what is the difference between Lord Chaitanya's presence in those 4 places and in other places? I don't understand the question, because when Lord Chaitanya went to other places, he traveled by his feet and went to other places. And he wasn't in Puri. But here he's in Puri, but he's going to these 4 places in particular because they're particularly dear to him, and the devotees are particularly elevated. I don't know if I answered the question. If I didn't answer the question, please tell me. And ask it again in another way that I can understand what the question is.
Rati Manjari says, Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances.
Hari Bom Rati Manjari Hari Krishna.
Says, all glories to Bhaktaben and all the Sankirtan devotees.
Yes. All glories to all the Sankirtan devotees all over the world who are distributing their Gitas like hotcakes.
And from Gopakanya Devi Dasi. She says, Jai Maharaj, Hare Krishna. Blessed to have you every day and have your heart-touching readings of Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I want to live forever for this reading of Srila Prabhupada's transcendental books.
Hare Krishna. Welcome to the club. I feel exactly the same way.
And there's something more from Rati Manjari. She says, what I found interesting in tonight's reading is to hear about the independent nature of Lord Chaitanya, who can behave however he likes.
Yes, that's right. Very good point.
Because Lord Chaitanya is so often behaving like an ideal submissive devotee, I sometimes forget that he is still the Supreme Lord, fully independent.
Yes. Very good. Very nice. Thank you for that.
What I especially liked also is how the devotees came to Lord Chaitanya to beg his mercy on Junior Haridāsa, and how they were so determined about it.
Yes. I want to tell you a pastime of Prabhupada that shines further light of clarification on this pastime. Okay? It's not that we should imitate Lord Chaitanya. And this is how Prabhupada illustrates this. When one of my dear godbrothers went away, stepped down from sannyas, and went away, got married and did all sorts of things. One day his servant, Harisari, and Harisari told me this personally, by the way, he went to Prabhupada and he asked this question. He said, since this Junior Haridāsa topic is so intense, will a person who falls from sannyas ever be able to get Lord Chaitanya's mercy again? Prabhupada's answer was this, and I don't have the exact words, but I'm paraphrasing definitely what the answer was. He said, well, I'm not Lord Chaitanya, and you are all not Junior Haridāsa. He said, I'm trying to push this movement all over the world, and I need the devotees. And we work hard to make the devotees. So, therefore, it's not that one has to commit suicide to get the mercy, again, of the spiritual master and Lord Chaitanya in this particular setting, time and circumstance.
And from Dayal Nitai.
Yes.
He says, thank you, Srila Guru Maharaj, for your response. It is clear now. I did not get the aspect of Lord Chaitanya being in Jagannath Puri at the time.
Yes. All right, Hare Krishna, tomorrow is Ekadashi. And not only is it Ekadashi, it is Gita Jayanti. And there are celebrations going on all over the world. And I'm just a little guy, a little tiny jiva over here in the haven. And I've decided to chant my normal 64 rounds and chant the whole Gita at the same time, and then do my reading tomorrow night. That's going to be my worship of the Gita in this important day. So I will see if I still have a voice left. I will see you tomorrow night. I will, I'm pretty sure I will, but that's a lot of chanting and a lot of talking, so if I can't, I'll send you a message, but I'm planning to. I want to. Okay, Sri Caitanya-caritāmrta ki jai, Sama Beda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. See you tomorrow night, hopefully. Same place, same topic. Shri Gita Jayanti ki jai, Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo.